In this video we are going to take a look at how the Deathwatch is doing in 9th edition with their new supplement. First we will look at statistics in an attempt to find out about the win percentage and relative faction strength. In the second part of the video we will look at which kind of lists were predicted when the first version of the FAQ dropped and which ones we actually see being played at tournaments. Then for the final part I will offer some conclusions and a wrap-up.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Temmer and I will be guiding you through this video.
As a quick reminder, the initial Deathwatch FAQ for 9th edition was released early in October 2020, followed by the release of the supplement only a few weeks later, at the very end of October. Since then, we have seen a Deathwatch FAQ in December, as well as the Space Marine FAQ from January this year. So where is the Deathwatch currently at? That question is tricky to answer. The supplement is still relatively new, and so is 9th edition as a whole, with many armies still waiting for their codexes to release. In addition to that, the current worldwide situation is making it difficult for events, just in general, to play games at all. Nevertheless, we can look at the data that is available, such as the win rate percentages that got published in a MetaWatch article on Warhammer community back in January. In the article, they are discussing going first versus going second and the effect on win percentages based on data from the ITC Battles app dating from October 25th, 2020 to January 8th, 2021, which is pretty close to the release of the Deathwatch supplement. What is noticeable is that the amount of games played with the Deathwatch faction is relatively low, making roughly 1.8% of all games. We can also see that compared to other Space Marine factions such as Dark Angels, Blood Angels and Space Wolves, Deathwatch has only half or even less as many games played. This means that in addition to the novelty of 9th edition and the worldwide situation, we are also dealing with a faction that doesn't really show up that much to begin with. Moving on to another article published by Goonhammer about the meta in February, in which they attempted to calculate relative faction strength. To quote directly from the article, Glicko is a rating system similar to ELO that can be used to gauge performance. As a 40k faction in our sample wins or loses games, they gain or lose points from their score, gaining more points from beating a higher ranked faction and fewer from winning against a lower ranked faction. Likewise, losses to lower ranked factions have harsher penalties. There are some additional factors to the model, such as how much you want it to react to each new game result, but for the most part, those are the basics. In our model, a score of 1500 is about average. End of quote. As we can see on the diagram, Deathwatch scores just below 1480 points, so a fair amount below average, at the bottom tier of Space Marine armies together with the Ultramarines. In comparison, Tau score slightly above 1420 and Harlequins being at the very top with almost 1570 points. The links to both articles are in the description. So how can this seemingly lack of performance be explained? Are people still adjusting to the new supplement? Are they experimenting with new kill teams and units that the Deathwatch previously didn't have access to? Are the results misleading because there are relatively few people playing that faction? Or does Deathwatch indeed perform below expectations? In order to answer this, it is worth taking a look at what people speculated that Deathwatch lists would look like in the near future. Basically, on day one of the first FAQ, both the Fortis and the Indomitor kill teams got a lot of hype. OPSEC Eradicators and OPSEC Outriders spam was the word. There were voices advocating bringing whole armies of these, and indeed we saw a bunch of theory-crafted lists featuring 3 Fortis kill teams with Outriders popping up. On a public scale, Outrider spam may even have made it into a battle report or two, at least prior to the points increases. The Indomitor kill teams, on the other hand, seemed a little underrepresented, but that may simply have been due to heavy intercessors not being available yet. As tournaments were being played out, and there were indeed not that many of them to begin with, I kept my eyes open for Deathwatch lists. Given the low percentage of Deathwatch games played as discussed earlier, I didn't expect them to show up in droves, but I was thinking that perhaps a new supplement, combined with the initial hype of OPSEC Eradicators and OPSEC Outriders, could be tempting enough to the competitive crowd. I admit I was a little surprised when I saw two Deathwatch tournament lists that were played at the Objective Secured Perth GT and the Gladiator gaming team events in January and February. They couldn't have been further from what was predicted when the initial FAQ hit. Unfortunately, I didn't see either list being played, so I have to do some theoretical guesswork here. Without further delay, let's look at the first list by Robert Hortin, which scored the 16th place at the Objective Secured Perth GT. For HQs, he included a Xenophase / Captain with a Storm Shield, Jump Pack, and further goodies like the Imperium Sword and Mastercrafting the Blade. Nothing too surprising there. I think this evolution of what used to be Smash Captains has been discussed quite frequently. Furthermore, there is a fairly standard Master of Sanctity Chaplain with a Jump Pack carrying the Beacon and Chalice relic, as well as a Librarian with a Jump Pack. Interestingly enough, he went for the Librarius discipline from the Space Marine Codex, picking Might of Heroes and Psychic Fortress over the Deathwatch discipline. Furthermore, there is a bare minimum of troops, 10 intercessors, a full Spectrus kill team, as well as 5 more infiltrators in a second Spectrus kill team, though I think he might just as well have used an infiltrator squad for this one. Anyway, the bigger Spectrus kill team has 4 eliminators mixed in. I think this is a fairly common idea and a great way to make use of this particular kill team. I assume the Incursor is there because they are slightly cheaper than infiltrators, though he had spare points, so I think I would just have added another infiltrator instead. If I'm missing something obvious here, you guys let me know in the comments. Moving on to the elites, there are 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts with the Plasma Incinerators and the Gatling Cannons, a strong general pick for Space Marine armies. The same goes for fast attack with 2 Plasma Inceptor squads at 5 models each. Even after the points increases, these guys still deliver. Last but not least, the list is rounded up with an assassin. Overall, this list has mobile HQs with jetpacks, with a / captain being favored over the Watchmaster. I assume his lack of mobility and inflexible loadout played some role here. Furthermore, what's interesting for a Deathwatch army is that there are very few kill teams, with the troop selection being pretty minimal. On the other hand, we see a heavy focus on strong general picks for Space Marine armies, such as the Redemptors and the Inceptors, featuring plasma weapons with blast. Looking at the relic choices, I think he expected to face horde armies and prepared as such. Lastly, what I also find interesting is that he went for the invul bubble from the general Space Marine librarian powers over going for the Deathwatch discipline and or the Dominus Aegis relic. Most likely this was the best pick left available after prioritizing all the other options. Might of Heroes, +1 strength, toughness, tax, and Psychic Fortress, 5+ invul within 6 inches of the caster are certainly fitting in nicely. Moving on to the second list by Dineeth Liyanagama, sorry for butchering your name mate, played at the Gladiator gaming teams event. Here we find a pretty similar / captain with jump pack, though this one also carries the Dominus Aegis relic. As a second HQ, he picked a Chief Librarian, also with jump pack, and this one is using the Deathwatch discipline with 2 very commonly discussed powers among the picks, fortified with Contempt and Primorphic Resonance. Furthermore, this list is really heavy on the kill teams, rocking 1 Indomitor kill team with heavy intercessors and inceptors, 3 Proteus kill teams with Deathwatch veterans and Vanguard veterans, all loaded with storm shields, and 1 Spectre's kill team with 5 infiltrators. Though in this last one I think he could just have used an infiltrator squad instead. Moving on to elites, there is the infamous Chief Apothecary with the Selfless Healer Warlord trait, a prime candidate for any Space Marine list these days. Then we also have a veteran biker squad with the Sergeant carrying yet another storm shield. And last but not least, we have a Chorus Black Star. Wow. Overall, this list also has mobile HQs with jetpacks, and again the Slash Captain being favored over the Watchmaster. This list also has plenty of kill teams, with the dominant one being the good old Firstborn Proteus kill team, consisting out of Deathwatch veterans with bolt guns and storm shields, and Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claw and Storm Shield. Fun fact about this combination is that while both Deathwatch veterans and Vanguard veterans have the exact same stats, the Vanguard veterans cost 1 point less per model, and they also gain a Storm Shield for 4 points rather than 5. This means by going for this kind of combination, he saved 2 points per Vanguard veteran, so that's 15 Vanguard veterans, and therefore 30 points. Not bad. For more information on the Proteus kill team, check out my guide, it is linked down in the description. In general, this army has a lot of OPSEC bodies and a lot of invul saves. It's not just the insane amount of storm shields, but also the Dominus H's and the Librarian power pretty much being able to cover everything but the Corvus. Speaking of which, it's an interesting pick certainly. Most likely used to deploy one of the Proteus kill teams. While these lists may seem pretty different overall, they still have a few things in common. The most obvious one might be the mobile HQs with jump pack, and of course the Slash Captain being pretty much the same in both armies. Both also make use of invul bubbles, be it the Dominus Aegis relic and or Librarian powers. What's further interesting is that both went for Plasma Inceptors over Eradicators. Combined with the relic choices, I think they both expected to face horde-style armies rather than massive vehicles and similar. I think the Eradicator boogeymen have done their job in discouraging the latter. Both armies also included the Beacon and Chalice, which of course makes sense when you have mobile HQs like this. So what can we conclude from this? When purely looking at numbers, Deathwatch does not seem to overperform. How accurate these numbers are is difficult to judge, not only because there are few playing the faction, but also worldwide circumstances, resulting in far fewer events. While it was initially speculated that every half-competitive player would jump on the Deathwatch train and spam OPSEC, Eradicators and Outriders, that train does not yet seem to have left the station. This might be simply due to the amount of work required to build up and paint an army, and or the unavailability of heavy intercessors. Or perhaps this kind of crowd has since found more appealing new codex releases, looking at you Death Guard and Dark Angels. When compared to these releases, the Deathwatch Supplement does not feel over the top. On the contrary, some limitations put on kill teams or special issue ammunition seem pretty harsh and more in line with the adjustments Space Marines as a whole got with their new codex. Will we see similar things happening to some armies yet to get their codex, an addition of nerfs rather than buffs? We will see. What I find interesting about the two tournament lists we looked at is that they feature strong general Space Marine units in one case, supported by Deathwatch tools, and long-established Firstborn Deathwatch units in the latter. Personally, I think the first list makes a case that in order to play Deathwatch, you don't necessarily have to lean heavily into kill teams. In case of the second list, I think that it is a great demonstration that the Proteus kill team is far from dead yet. What we can take away from both lists though are the mobile HQs, the potent Slash Captain, the importance of invul saves across the army, and the ability to deal with horde-style armies. Furthermore, I also think that flexible deployment with the Beacon and Chalice and the Teleportarium remains one of the great strengths of a Deathwatch army. With heavy intercessors now being released for the first time through the Kill Team expansion box set, it will be interesting to see if lists and Deathwatch performance overall will change within the upcoming months. All in all, I think that the Deathwatch has plenty of good options in 9th edition, and it remains to be seen where we'll finally end up in the ranking. So that's it for the current state of Deathwatch in 9th edition. What has your experience been so far, and where do you guys feel that we will end up once everyone has their full 9th edition rules? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again, and see you next time.